LLMs are eroding my software engineering career, and I don't know what to do. Just imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the very skills you spent your entire adult life perfecting are suddenly available to literally anyone with an internet connection and a chat box. That's exactly the raw, unfiltered reality we're unpacking today. We're going to be looking at a deeply personal, wildly viral account from a veteran software engineer who's literally watching their livelihood slip away.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're exploring this massive shift in software engineering through a framework we're calling the Falling Pillars, how AI is dismantling software expertise. Let's dive right in.
So, we're not just throwing around abstract AI concepts or making some wild future predictions here. We are looking at the absolute ground floor reality of right now, or, as the source material frames it, looking from the vantage point of mid-2026. And to really grasp the gravity of this, we kind of need to understand our author's journey. Because this isn't someone who just picked up a coding bootcamp certificate last month, right? This is a seasoned pro. They started out doing simple web front-end stuff, handling the visual parts of websites because it was pretty easy to debug. But they didn't just stay there. They pushed themselves into the incredibly unforgiving, complex world of back-end development, diving headfirst into things like finance, bookkeeping, and payment processing.
And let's put a hard number on that experience. 10. A full decade of professional, in-the-trenches experience. That's 10 years of building, breaking, and fixing systems where a single mistake literally costs real people their real money. Now, in the tech world, having a decade of deep, specialized experience in financial back-end systems basically makes you a unicorn. You're highly sought after, you're incredibly well compensated, and logically, you should be completely immune to automation. Or, well, so they thought.
Just take a look at the sheer density of human effort required here. We're talking PCI compliance, double-entry ledgers, escrows, bank transfer idempotency. Now, these aren't just fancy buzzwords to throw on a resume. They represent thousands and thousands of hours of intense mental labor. It's complex stuff learned through sweat, tears, and, probably a few highly stressful midnight deployment failures. Our author built their entire career on this specific knowledge, really believing that mastering this difficult, super niche domain was the ultimate shield against losing their job.
And that brings us to Pillar 1, the illusion of safety, specifically focusing on domain knowledge.
So, when the author got hired by an AI-forward finance company to rework this messy, legacy online payment system, they initially burst off large language models. They thought of them as just stochastic parrots, basically fancy autocomplete engines that mindlessly repeated training data. They figured there was absolutely no way an AI could handle messy legacy systems. But then they were prompted to use AI for some architectural design docs, and they got their first real shock. The AI didn't just spit out generic text, it connected the dots. It actually understood the trade-offs of different implementations and knew exactly how to structure systems to prevent things like double charges. The absolute hardest part of the job, that deep architectural intuition that usually takes years for a human to develop, was generated in seconds.
But, as humans, we love finding a new safe haven when we're threatened. Which brings us to Pillar 2, complex debugging. The author figured, okay, sure, AI can design systems, but humans are always going to be needed to fix them when they inevitably break at 2 a.m., right? Untangling messy, distributed systems in production was supposed to be the golden ticket to staying employed forever. Machines make the messes, humans clean them up. Simple. But the escalation here is terrifyingly fast. Look at this timeline. Late 2025, AI coding was okay, but the debugging was pretty weak. Then Claude 4.5 drops, using agentic workflows, and suddenly it's solving 60% of bugs just by glancing at an error log. And then, the sky literally falls. With tools like GPT 5.5 and Opus 4.8 plugged straight into system monitoring tools like Datadog, the AI just starts one-shotting 90% of bugs. We're talking about those bizarre, totally undocumented edge cases that used to take a senior engineer 2 full days of intense, head-scratching concentration to figure out. And the AI is just fixing them instantly, basically without any human help at all.
Which leads us to this completely devastating realization. All my finance and payment domain expertise is now promptable. Sure, the author's still employed for now, but they realize they've basically just become an off-the-shelf engineer steering a robot. Think about it. Any other senior engineer with an AI can now instantly match their entire decade of hyper-specialized financial knowledge just by typing the right prompt. That protective moat, it's completely gone.
With design and debugging now handled by machines, we arrive at the last pillar standing, code quality and architecture. Now, our author deeply loved keeping codebases super clean and strictly architected. And obviously, humans are needed for that, right? Because actually, AI is notoriously messy when it codes. These autonomous coding agents have some pretty terrible habits. They'll create circular dependencies, blindly duplicate code everywhere, and completely ignore foundational software engineering rules like the solid principles. If you leave them to their own devices, they'll turn a beautifully crafted codebase into an absolute bowl of spaghetti. So logically, you'd think human engineers are totally safe, because companies are always going to pay top dollar to have clean, perfectly organized code, right?
Well, wrong. The industry's entire perspective on this is shifting under our feet. What we used to highly prize as software architecture is being marginalized into this really fuzzy concept that people are just calling taste. The crushing reality here is that businesses simply don't care about having an A-grade code base anymore. And why would they? Humans aren't the ones reading the code anymore. Machines are. If one AI writes a totally messy C-grade code base, but another AI can easily read, update, and deploy it, the business doesn't care if it looks pretty to a human eye. The whole human need for code quality is actively becoming obsolete.
So what happens when all the pillars fall? Welcome to the generalist economy, supply, demand, and the aftermath.
With all three of those pillars effectively crumbling, we start seeing a massive macro shift in hiring practices, even at the author's own company. This isn't just about one specific engineer at one finance company. This is about the fundamental economics of all knowledge work. Back in the day, job postings were highly specific: software engineer - area of expertise. They hired you for the specific, niche things you knew. But now, the postings literally just say software engineer. You get hired, and the team assignment happens later. Brilliant specialists who spent their entire lives collecting niche knowledge are being thrown into the exact same lane as everyone else. Having domain familiarity just isn't a differentiator anymore, because the AI bridges that gap for everyone.
And that reveals a really harsh economic truth, one that probably applies to a lot of fields, maybe even yours. If everyone is a generalist, the price of a generalist falls if there's no demand to match. When AI democratizes these highly specialized skills, the supply of people who can magically do the job just skyrockets. And basic economics tells us that when supply goes way up and demand dries up, value plummets. The author isn't just losing their passion for the work, they are staring down the barrel of a rapidly devaluing career path.
So, what do you actually do when your life's work gets automated? The author runs through a few, let's call them desperate pivot options. Option 1, go back to college. Load up on advanced math and machine learning. Option 2, try to score a research role at a frontier AI lab. But even with those, there's this lingering, terrifying dread. Like, what if AI makes researchers obsolete before they even finish the degree? Which leads to option 3. It's half joking, but also entirely serious. Maybe it's time to just become a professional woodworker. Escaping the digital world completely for something physical, something real, that a chatbot just can't replicate.
And that leaves us right here, with a pretty haunting question that extends way beyond just the world of software engineering. When your hard-earned expertise, the stuff you've spent 10, 20, or maybe 30 years mastering, becomes nothing more than a prompt in a chat window, what is left? What is the actual unique value of human knowledge workers in the AI age? It's a tough question this engineer is really struggling to answer, and honestly, it's one we are all going to have to face very, very soon. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.